Welcome to the road to growth, success of an entrepreneur.
We've raised the bar.
Learn firsthand from successful business owners and create your own path to success.
I'm going to show you how great I am.
It's time to hit the road to growth with team lead of the Enriquez Group, Realtor Vinny.
Hi, all you Road to Growth listeners. Today I got Aidan Sowa. He is the founder and CEO of Sowa Marketing Agency. Now, I know a lot of you know that we do this live, and so we have a visual component to it on YouTube and Periscope, Twitch, all those kind of platforms, and then we have the audio. So if you're listening to the audio, you probably won't even notice, but maybe you saw the picture. Aidan, you probably get it all the time. You look really young.
Yeah, definitely pretty young. I think it's because I am relatively young. I'm 21.
Yeah. I had someone on the other day that they started their business at, I want to say 12 or 13, and they were like 17. So you can definitely see the youngness there. But for you, I mean, for them, it was them. They were starting their own company, and it was building apps or building an app and kind of selling the app, right? For you, being a marketing agency, right? People are trusting you for their marketing, right? They're hiring you to basically get their face out there, get their words out there, get them out there. And I know that can be very daunting. I mean, there's a story of this realtor that selling massive amount of business, but the first thing he saw was just his baby face. I think he was like 22, but he was selling real estate with his family from the age of like 16. So he's been doing it for a long time. So he had to show his stats, show his numbers before people could actually look past his age. Do you get that problem at all?
I mean, I used to when I first got started out in business, for sure. I mean, over time, I've built up that credibility. Like I can show my past clients. So I'm starting to get that less and less. I feel like it's also like a confidence issue. People coming into the business, they think, oh, like if I'm young, people won't want to work with me. So it's a mindset thing as well. If you convey that confidence with someone maybe who has like 10, 20 years of experience might have, the people will start to see you as more of like an equal in terms of like business.
Well, and marketing this day and age, right? You're leveraging, Twitter, Periscope, Twitch, TikTok. You're leveraging a lot of platforms. I mean, they started out as a younger person's game, and they slowly transitioned. Even Facebook, it was originally, for the college kids, and then slowly became business related. Now you have TikTok that was really for the young kids, and now it's like you start seeing businesses on there, people trying to sell their product out there. So you have to be, I guess, up to date on the newer stuff. Sometimes maybe it pays to have a younger person kind of running that show for you.
Yeah, and I also feel like people are a little bit more forgiving. So that's another benefit as well. Being young in the business, people might also not have high expectations in that regard. So it goes both ways.
What's your clientele? Walk us through a little bit about your business.
Yeah, so we exclusively pretty much work with like luxury realtors. Okay. And we specialize just helping them establish their brands online.
Okay, so mostly it's kind of real estate related and marketing in that direction.
Yeah, so we get them featured to like major media sites like Forbes, Yahoo, BuzzFeed, and just to really establish themselves and distinguish themselves from, frankly, the other 2.3 million realtors out there in the United States.
Yeah, no, the real estate game, it's something that, I go over a lot of stats locally, hyper-focused. We have like 10,000 realtors in San Diego County. Mind you, though, 85% haven't done this piece of business in the last 12 months. So even though there's a lot of people, right? It can get convoluted. So you have to, it's making sure you stand above maybe someone else that's doing the business. So I fully understand. Do you have a background in real estate, or why did you kind of make it a hyper-focus in that community?
Yeah, no background in real estate. I've met with a lot of real estate agents in person, so I've got to know them pretty well. Originally, when I first started out the marketing agency, I did almost exclusively networking events to be able to get clients. It just so happens to be that a lot of realtors go to networking events. So that was one of my first clients that got a realtor as like a client. We met up a few different times, and sometimes just he was eating lunch and we just went over some ideas, and I got a really good feel of like how they think about business, their pain points, what's good about their business, what they enjoy doing, how they typically get clients. And from there, that just kind of became a focus point of mine because I wanted to be able to find them like customized solutions specifically for their industry.
Okay, so you get that one person. What's what does that look like? Did you, because I know you talked about before, you had somewhat of a background in online and kind
Yeah.
of SEO, was it, or no?
Yeah, I definitely have
Okay.
done some, like, my first client was actually like a lead generation Facebook ads type of client, because that's what I was
Okay.
doing at that time. Um, yeah, I definitely was doing like a lot of Facebook ads, SEO. That's what I primarily did prior to like the pandemic, which caused a bit of a shift. During that time, I realized maybe this Facebook ads thing is starting to become a little bit more difficult to distinguish myself as a marketer. Like I would get conversations sometimes where I'd message people and people would be skeptical because they realize there's all these other people also offering Facebook ads and they want to know what makes me different. I was getting kind of sick of that. So I wanted to see like what other ways can I use to like establish myself. And that's when I came across the other side of things, which is branding.
Okay, so what does, I mean, with regards to the marketing then, or the Facebook ads, did you have a response that you came up with when you were propositioning that question?
Yeah, definitely. Like one thing which I would say is I focused exclusively on real estate agents. So I'm not focusing on all these other industries. So we have like hyper targeted ads for them. And the second thing is we run like retargeting ads. So we're not just targeting cold traffic. We target everyone in cold leads and we retarget them through like a second form of ads.
Mm,
And we also target everyone because a lot of people have a website, but people don't realize you can target people who visited their website with ads.
yeah,
For a lot of realtors don't know that. So that's
yeah.
a key thing which I would bring up as well.
Before you started your marketing agency, walk us through a little bit of kind of where did you grow up? How was your childhood? And then kind of go from there.
Yeah, so originally I actually was born in California. I don't
Mm,
remember it that much though because I was like a baby, stayed there for like 2 years. Spent most of my life in two different countries in like the United States and Canada. Traveled back and forth. My parents owned two different houses, so I kind of lived a mixture of both worlds, being a Canadian and US citizen. And I was able to learn about a lot of different things, traveled to around 12 different countries at this point. So that's pretty much like what my childhood was like. I did a bit
wow.
about like completely different things. Like I'm also a black belt in Taekwondo, so I did a bunch of different things during that period. But that's pretty much what my childhood was looking like.
How was that? So if you're moving to like a bunch of different places, are you finding a new place to train and get a new belt for your Taekwondo, or how was that process like?
Yeah, I mean Taekwondo in Canada, the US, it's kind of very similar. It's not exactly the same, but it was very similar. So there's usually like equivalent in Canada.
Okay. What do you? So you've transferred, you moved all around. Did you go to high school at least at the same high school, or did you move from high school to high school?
Yeah, I was actually homeschooled, so I didn't have to
Okay.
worry about the whole high school thing. So I pretty much from like the age of like from third grade, I was kind of like frustrated with the whole schooling thing. It wasn't quite working as well as I would like, and so I was eventually just homeschooled, and that worked out a lot better for me.
Oh wow. Okay. So and then from homeschool to college, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, how was that? I mean, how was that process going to college? Because I have to think that, right, if you're homeschooled, you probably don't have access to a lot of people. I mean, that the positive of it, you're going to get taught a lot of stuff, but the interaction you have on a daily basis is probably a little bit to be desired, I guess, that communication. So now you're in college, and that's probably a lot of communication, a lot of interaction coming across people. That had to be a little bit different.
Yeah, it definitely was different. I mean, I definitely did have some interactions. Like I mentioned, I did some martial arts. Um, I also did. I was like the only person in my state, other than my brother, who got a congressional award for like youth. So I
Mm.
definitely did participate on some different activities. But yeah, you are right. I feel like it's sort of a stigma, but it definitely is for a reason. So yeah, it was quite the adjustment, to get into that, and even more so, I feel like once I got into, like, the business p component where you're talking to people on a daily basis.
Well, now a lot of people, especially at a young age, that I've had on this podcast on the road to growth, is the younger ones. are usually they've had some kind of history of rejection, either be it door-to-door sales, calling, working at a restaurant, something to allow them to kind of push forward and grow their business.
Yep.
Did you have anything that in your childhood or growing up where you were working, doing any kind of sales, family? What did that look like?
Yeah, so for me, I mean, I didn't particularly like certain, like I was always not as good as like my brother and sister when it comes to certain activities, and I always wanted to become the best, but wasn't quite there. So I did have that competitive nature. I also like played chess, and I was never quite as good as I wanted to be. So I definitely did go through like certain struggles in that regard. When it comes to like actual failures, I did work like a job. I actually got fired from this minimum wage job, which I worked with prior. So that was definitely like a struggle, which kind of pushed me to start a business because I didn't want to be going through that type of struggle anymore. I believe that I could actually do quite a bit more on my own rather than listening to what this other person had to say about me.
Do you think that's a newer mindset then to, I mean, not because you said that you didn't want to really listen to what someone else had to tell you,
Yeah.
and you
Not
wanted to
necessarily
express.
like it was just like negative stuff, which I didn't want to hear about. I mean,
Yeah,
it's definitely good to listen, but at the time, I just didn't want to hear it.
yeah.
I just gotten fired. I didn't want to hear anything which they had to say. Yeah.
And did you know that you wanted to start a marketing agency, or did you start thinking of how
No.
you're going to make money, or what?
I mean,
What were
I
some ideas?
definitely at that time, it was kind of funny. Like around a year prior to that, I'd been thinking about starting a marketing agency, but I didn't do it. I just worked temporarily at this job. And eventually I realized I need to actually start that business. And it took around, I think it was like a month or two, which it took me to actually really make that decision and dial down, starting to like hone my skills essentially.
I got you. Okay. So you have the idea of the marketing agency. Do you already have kind of an idea of what you're going to offer price wise, anything like that? Or is it just
No.
going to the networking events, talking to people, and then just seeing what happens?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I knew for a fact I wasn't gonna be charging like anything under 1,000 a month, but I didn't know quite exactly like how people were gonna react to that type of thing, how people were going to react to my age, a lot of different variables, which I just sort of had to figure out on my own, going to like these different events and learning about them. Um, yeah.
Well, let's walk through that first person you said you had, right? The first person you met at a networking event. Did you talk about price originally? Or when did you start talking about price with them?
I pretty much started talking about price like when they just asked me like they're like, all right, well, I mean, I noticed you do Facebook ads and stuff like that. So how much would that cost for me to do? And I just said it was like $1,000 a month because I thought that was pretty reasonable. I was looking to do maybe 1,500 a month, but I thought that was a pretty good starting point. And they were like, oh, that's perfect. Let's just start out with that. How does like starting out with like 3 months sound? And I was
Mhm.
like, oh wow, that's huge. Because I guess I mean they don't know that. Like it's
Yeah.
one of my first clients. So yeah.
But you see, you kept a straight face.
Exactly, because I was actually like one thing I didn't know, and it's a good thing I did because he's like actually a number one realtor in Keller Williams. So having that client that will be able to leverage that type of name is a really good thing, especially in the real estate industry to be able to work with top people. So I got that kind of slight advantage right off the get go.
All right. So you find him, he invests the $3,000 in you. Does he
Mhm.
start seeing a return in his investment?
Well, actually, he's an incredibly busy client, meaning they already were spending thousands of dollars on a monthly basis on marketing.
Okay.
So they were too busy to even look at any of the leads which I was getting them. So even though I was generating them a ton of leads, they just weren't even attending to them. At the end of like the last 3 months, or like the last week or so, they started going at them, but it was kind of too late. You're in your last week of 3 months. So they
Yeah.
didn't really generate a positive ROI off of that experience, but there's nothing I could have really done about that. I reached out to them tons of times, but he's like a really busy guy.
Okay. So how do you leverage that experience? It doesn't seem like, I mean, even though you're giving him leads, right? Your story, right? There's always, what's that saying go, right? It's your story, my story, and the real story,
Yeah.
right? So I mean, you're relaying it that he's getting all these leads for him because he doesn't have the time to satisfy the leads. He's not truly getting the leads or getting the deals, right? So it might not have been a great scenario for him. So how are you leveraging basically his experience or not leveraging his experience to get more business?
Yeah, I sort of leveraged it in the beginning, just mentioning the fact that I know him because everyone in my entire state knew who he was.
Okay.
So I would mention to other realtors. Over time, didn't necessarily use it as much, just because I mean he didn't generate like a positive ROI off of the experience.
Hmm.
So over time, I used clients who actually had like a really good experience with me. Um, that's what I started to use over time. But you have to kind of build up those things over time.
Okay. And then what did you learn? Like, because you've been doing it for a couple of years now, what have
Mhm.
you learned in that window of time of how to maximize your client's dollar more so uh than to now?
Yeah, and I would say like the key thing, which I wish I kind of known back then, is to set expectations, getting it clear in writing what you expect the client to do.
Mm,
What if you, for example, if a lead generation type of company, you should have like exact expectations. You should be calling leads within an hour at the latest. Things like that should
mm,
be really key. And writing down like different notes about like every single lead, keeping track. Because if you don't keep track of this stuff, at the end of the day, they just gonna come back to me and they'll be like, "Oh, these leads didn't work," and I'll be like, "All right, did you call the lead within an hour?" And they're like, "No, it took me 5 days to call them." And so there's all these other factors which you want to eliminate right off the get-go. So setting out expectations in a clear email, setting those expectations, getting them to sign an agreement. I wasn't actually signing agreements. It was all kind of like verbal, and that can
mm.
really create problems. You have to sign agreements in business, and that's something I kind of learned the difficult way, just having to deal with like one really difficult client who kind of forced me to learn that, and I've done that ever since.
How did you how did you find the right attorney, I guess, to put that contract together? Or how did you put that contract together?
I didn't have to find an attorney. The great thing about the internet is there's tons of agreements already available
Okay.
online.
Yeah.
So I just took a template and kind of improved on it. And no one's ever tried to sue me or anything. So I don't know if it would actually hold through in court. But it's good enough that people don't try to do anything.
You're definitely, I can appreciate it. You're definitely being very, very honest. So I have to love that right there. Thank you. All right. So looking back at all your travels and everything like that of when you're moving at a younger age, do you think there's any, do you think you would have been farther along with your business if you didn't travel as much? Do you think if you had done something different, if your parents would have had a more established location, anything like that? Do you ever look back on those times?
Not really. I mean, I was quite young. I mean, I'm still quite young, and I don't really see it like as like a big thing. I want to be able to travel the world as it is. I want to be able to go to like tons of different countries anyway. So I feel like that gave me like a good perspective on like how there's like tons of different perspectives in the world. And some people might think this reality is a certain way. Another area might think it's completely different. So I feel like that's helped me in that perspective, not necessarily in business, but as like a human being able to understand others.
Understand the different communities?
Mhm.
Makes sense. If you're looking at your business, we kind of looked in the past. If you're looking in the future, let's say we're talking in 5 years from now, where do you see yourself and your business going?
Yeah. So in the next year or so, I'm trying to hit 7 figures, and then after that, my ultimate goal within like the next 10 years is I want to be able to reach like 9 figures as
Okay.
a company. Yeah.
So is it consistently doing the kind of the same activities, but just on a higher scale?
I mean, the same activities which get you to 10,000 are not going to be the ones which take you to 100,000 or a million. You have to kind of make variations. So creating SOPs is what I'm starting to do at this stage. So documenting every single thing which works, kind of outsourcing certain tasks. Like I have virtual assistants, people who help me out in the business. Because I only have 24 hours in a day, and no one ever really succeeds just themselves. So those are the types of things that you have to do once you start to grow as a company, and eventually have to like I'll have to hire some more salespeople, things like that.
What platforms did you use for virtual assistants?
Yeah, there's this great site, onlinejobs.ph. I
Okay.
really love it. I get like hundreds of it's cost like $45 or something for like a month, and you get like hundreds of applications.
And what kind of activities do you have them do?
Pretty basic ones. I mean, things which I try to make it as simplistic as possible. So for my company, the way we generate a lot of leads is I send out Instagram messages. So we send out a ton of Instagram messages every single day. I have like a certain templates of messages which they have to send. Yeah, something like that, which is really simple. I don't want to make it something so difficult that they won't be able to understand it, because there definitely is even though they speak English, there still is a bit of an English, like a language barrier.
Okay, so how does it go? So you have the conversation where you reach out to someone, or you have the person reach out through Instagram, and then when the conversation happens, are they still communicating, trying to set the appointment for you?
Yeah, I mean, they set the appointment all over Instagram, so people book right into my calendar over Instagram. So they're just messaging people, and then I come on, I do like an intro call, and then they actually sign up, or maybe they aren't a good fit, things like that.
Okay, and then so that's how you get your business for your clients. Let's say someone's listening right now and they're not fully sure if they needed someone to do their marketing out there, right?
Yeah.
What are some of the things that you do, right, or something that someone can do today if they want to basically put their foot in the right direction?
Yeah, so like the first thing about like actually marketing yourself is like, utilizing social media if you don't have as much money. Second thing is you shouldn't, like, I wish I'd known this back when I was first starting out, is you shouldn't run ads if you can't afford to spend at least $1,000 a month in marketing. A lot of people start spending money on ads and they expect to start making an ROI off of like their first, I don't know, $100 and expect to make it back. That is just like huge money, like expend, like people just spend a ton of money. It's just gonna be a waste of money in your early ages of a business. You have to be able to spend at least $1,000 because you have to split test. So that's probably the first key thing when considering even doing any type of marketing activity.
Do you find a better platform through Facebook, Instagram, Twitter? What's one of the better platforms right now to get a quality lead?
Yeah, probably right now, I really like to use Google. So running YouTube ads is probably like the best way. Facebook is good, but the problem with it is that it consistently shuts down your ad account. So it's really annoying in that way. And you have to go through all these loopholes to actually create like a whole new Facebook account. It's really crazy. And you don't go through that usually on Google.
Do you have on your website, or where's the best way for people to reach out to you?
Yeah, they can reach me at sowaagency.co.
Okay. And so right now, I mean, people listening right now, if you're looking to build your marketing platform, and you heard it from Aidan, right? It sounds like Google is the kind of still the best way of going for your dollar. Yet Facebook might be a better way to go. But if you're looking for someone to actually take over your business, then yeah, reach out to Aidan. His information should be in the show notes. Thank you, Aidan, for being on here. Any last words you want to throw out there?
No, I mean, that's pretty much it. It was great being on the show.
I appreciate you. All right. Well, thank you guys. Please subscribe, please share, and of course, tell your friends. Thanks, everyone. Bye.